Hey everyone, Typical Hunks Adventure here, and yeah, just heading out. Finished work early today. I may come back and tidy up some things I was working on code-wise. Yeah, happy it is now Friday. I'm not sure when I'll get this video up, but as of the recording, it is Friday. And yeah, I'm gonna go get an oil change, and they don't take appointments at the place I'm going to, so hopefully it's not too busy. But also I do want to chat for a moment, so I'm going to kind of cruise around some neighborhoods first, just because I wanted to make a video kind of talking about some things. And yeah, so with the code, it's one thing that I'm trying to get better at, especially in engineering, is just the roller coaster that occurs sometimes, weekly, sometimes as quick as just daily, right? So you spend an hour trying to figure out a line of code to do something you needed to, figure it out, like, awesome, this is great. Move on to the next line, and it's a new issue. Or maybe you get 2 lines in, and then, it's another issue, and you spend hours trying to figure it out. But one good thing, I feel like, and I've been trying to tell some of my no QA, is just our knowledge of the application. We know what it can do, or, I keep in mind the end result, or what I'm trying to get to. And I keep that in mind, right? So if it's trying to get to this thing and I'm running into an issue here, sometimes you might think of workarounds or other ways, like how do I approach this a different way to try and accomplish what I'm trying to do. And for me, one of the things I was running into was the company I was trying to use, there's only one, for whatever reason, that we could get to do this thing that we needed it to. So my big thing was, okay, well, how can I get this to work then? And I thought it'd be as easy as just swapping it in, but the company I was trying to use is very customizable, and it's very specific in terms of how it's set up. I ran into other issues with that, but I tried to use this assignment creator, so instead of using like code that would go through the UI and do the things I need, it would just kind of use this other code to take in files in like an XML and then just generate what I needed. And it's like, yeah, I'll go that route, and didn't have certain info that I needed. I'm like, oh, it's missing this required field, because in an XML you can just pass in data and it'll generate it, and sometimes it'll generate something in a bad state where it's just like, yeah, we made this thing but we can't use it because it's missing required fields that are needed for like assigning something out to someone. Maybe like someone specializes in a certain thing and that thing isn't listed, then they're not going to show up in the list, or maybe no one shows up in a list. And so I had to figure out how to add in code for that, and I got that in. I'm like, awesome. Get to the next thing, still isn't working. It's like, why isn't this working? And you move a little bit further, and it's like, oh, okay, I figure out how to add in this logic. And you're like, cool, you added it in, still doesn't work. And then I start debugging it, and one of the things I noticed when looking at the code was the data I was trying to pass in was like a child set of data to a parent set of data. So basically, unless this one field was entered, it's not going to be able to let you enter in, or choose an option from the sub data set of it. And so I had my code flipped, so it was getting a new instance of this data from the subfield, and then it was generating a new instance for the parent or the main field. And since it was doing a new instance, it basically would wipe the data from before and then create new data for it. So after I swapped those, then all of a sudden that worked. And even though it did all that, it generated my assignment in the UI. I still could not assign to anyone. We're not sure why. But again, just trying other things. I'm like, okay, well, when we pass in the XML, assigning it to someone. So I did that, and then that ended up working, and it keeps getting you further. But one thing that I try and keep in mind is, while my test is running, maybe it's something about being pessimistic or optimistic, I don't know how you want to word it, but like always thinking, what else can I try? So I don't want my code to fail, but if it does, what else is, what's the next step or the next plan? And I think that's good to kind of keep in mind. If it passes, awesome. If not, then I'm able to kind of hit the ground running, right? It's like, let me try changing this piece of code, seeing if that's going to work. And while that's running, if that doesn't work, what else can I keep in mind? And one of the things that always kind of worked for me in terms of this was just that if none of this worked with generating the assignment I needed, which would be nice because it only takes about 5 seconds to do so, is I can have the code run through the UI. It would probably take I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes to do the same flow that I could do in 5 seconds. So, a huge difference being able to generate this assignment. But I was able to manually run through and do it in the UI on our site. Saw that it worked, so it's like, okay, if I just do the same thing in my code, I know it'll work. But, wanted to be a challenge. I want to try this other new thing, get my hands dirty with it and try to learn it, and it paid off. It ended up working. Got it all set. So that was awesome. Some nice learning there. And I pushed the code out, and before it even got to being reviewed by someone, I was updating some stuff, and I realized, I was like, oh, I need another test. I totally forgot this other workflow test. And luckily I had all this background knowledge already, and it only took a couple minutes to write this other test that I needed, so I got that out. And it was up for approval today. It did have some comments on it for some things that I had missed, which is awesome, right? You want that kind of feedback. It's great when you miss certain things, because that also helps it stick in your mind, like, oh, I need to be more mindful of these certain things. When I'm reviewing other people's code, I should also be mindful of those certain things. So I think it's great. The person's like, oh, I'm sorry I found these things. It's like, no, don't apologize. I think that's awesome. We're all growing, we're all learning. That's the point of having these reviews and getting, set approvals. So that was great. And one of the challenges for me today, so after I kind of got that up, was looking into something my boss wanted me to look into the other day. And I hadn't at first because it kind of deals with these tests that we run over the weekend, and they run on this grid. And they've been running out of disk space. The last couple of times it happened from a coworker's screen recording software that she added in. It was just eating up too much memory. In this case, she had turned it off and it was still failing, but we did have one pass, so we weren't sure what was going on there. But I realized it was because when she turned it off, it was also when we manually were running this kind of this weekend run thing on our machine. So it lined up with it being off, and then that's why it had passed. And then when we were like, oh no, it's not this, she turned it back on, and then the failures occurred again. Man, this lighting is crazy. There we go. So that was one of the things with that. We kind of learned that we wanted to add in some logging. So my boss was like, add in some logging in TeamCity, which is this site where our tests run. And then also go into the framework and add in some logging there, so we're able to see what the initial disk size is, just for future purposes if we wanted to check and look into those with the build logs. And I was like, sure, yeah, I can look into that. Not saying that, hey, I've never done that before. I don't even know where to begin with adding it in the TeamCity, let alone where that should kind of go in the framework and what the expectations for that. But I took it upon myself to try and learn that, and it's one of the beautiful things of AI in terms of just kind of, chatting with it, trying to figure things out, getting an idea of, how it might be helpful. And then, obviously one of the main things too is you can't just rely on it. You really do have to kind of know some code. You have to meet it, halfway. It's a partner. It's not supposed to just be a teacher. And I was just kind of working through. It's like, hey, I want to add logging into TeamCity. This is how we're currently set up. I want it to run before our tests run. How would I kind of go about that? And it gave some options. It's like, oh, you can go here into your build configuration, build steps. You would add a step using, if it's an option of a command line prompt or a PowerShell prompt. And I wasn't sure, so I was like, well, we're on a Windows machine. I'm going to try the command prompt version. And that didn't work, and then I realized our TeamCity runs actually use Linux, so then I tried the PowerShell command, and that worked. So just a little bit of troubleshooting and debugging, and I was able to see on the screen that it actually ran that command, and it output what the disk size was. And it was awesome to be able to see that. So that was a nice quick win. But then the other piece that I was worried about was adding it into our framework, because I didn't really know how that works. Because we don't really run all of our tests in our framework, at least not on our machines. They run off on these weekend run things. And so I was looking into that and, kind of asking it, it's like, where would I even put something like this? And it kind of mentioned, it's like, oh, if you're using, the stuff that we're using, it might be in this file. So I go to that file, saw some things. It's like, okay, I could probably put it here, and kind of got a run through of some code for using the method, because we wanted to output it in gigabytes. And bytes are huge, so it has some code in terms of getting what the size is going to be by taking like an amount and then dividing that by 1024 times 1024 times 1024. So basically, however that math works, it's going to narrow it down into gigabytes, and I was able to get that, and then have a logger set up, and then doing a system printout, just so we're able to see the message on the screen. And I was able to run a test, so I learned that our test also will have like a before suite area where I can see that kind of code there. That's not necessarily in the test, but it's kind of in our setup, as well as teardown. So in there I can see that it was spitting out what the disk size was at the start, and I was like, that's awesome. And then I realized I should probably also add it at the end, because I think that's a good indicator too. So I can go ahead and drive. That what the size is afterwards, because that's good to know. Did it fill up a ton? Did it even come close to filling up a lot? If it came close, then it's like, hey, maybe we need to look at adding more space, or we need to figure out why something is filling up so much. Is it not clearing the files? And certain things like that. So, that was new for me. It's kind of funny how things work with code. Sometimes the easier things, so the stuff I spent all week on, I thought that was going to be easy, and it took all week. The thing that I worked on with the, figuring out the disk size and all that, completely new to me. I didn't know how to even go about it, and was worried about how much time that was going to take. And it took me maybe an hour today, and I got that code out. It was approved and merged, and it's done for, at least for now. Of course, next week that may be another story. Maybe something doesn't work out, and then they trace it back to my code, and we look into it then. But yeah, overall, it's a good day. So hoping the oil change goes well. That's another thing too. So my car is at about 39,000 miles. My oil change says to come back at 45,000 miles. But I get the high synthetic, high mileage. And I technically got my oil change back last October. So it has been about 8 months. I know sometimes these can last 12 months. But I was a little bit confused at first. I was like, usually I come around to reaching the miles. Sometimes before, the date, but working from home and just not driving a lot, I was just like, well, I'm not meeting those. But then I remembered, when I'm waiting for my son at school pickups and things like that, sometimes that's 30, 40 minutes with my car just sitting idle, which of course is going to be using up some of the oil. Short trips, things like that can be a bit harsh on the car as well. It's understandable that my car definitely needs its oil changed, but yeah, it just kind of caught me off guard, because that wasn't something that I'd typically been used to in terms of when I should come back in for an oil change, especially when I'm kind of looking at my mileage and things like that. But my car does tell me, it said, hey, you're at 10% oil life, and decided I should probably go get that taken care of. So that's where I'm heading to now. Okay, so I figured I'd just film a little bit more, so got the oil change done. I always do find it kind of funny when you get an estimate and they say, it'll be about 35, 45 minutes, and then knew that wasn't going to be the case, because last time I had been here, I said the same thing, ended up taking about an hour and a half. So kind of just braced for that, especially when I saw that there were 4 or 5 cars there before me. And not a big deal though. I had plenty to do on my phone, in terms of just checking some work chats and messages, as well as responding to some friends on social media, and then just checking some other things. So not a huge deal, honestly, but yeah, I got it all done. Definitely costly in a sense, especially with my car doing high synthetic. I think the oil alone, with the service and everything, that was $210. And then since I don't really feel like dealing with it, my air filters, I had those replaced as well. I used to do it myself with my other car, but my current car, it's kind of a pain. Had my tires rotated, just because it's always good to do. And just kind of with that stuff, it came out to $230, somewhere around there, because had some coupons and stuff that could be applied, which again, it's always nice. At the end of the day, I only have to do this once a year, so $200 something isn't really that bad. I kind of equate it to maybe with my older cars, where I would go in and get oil changes multiple times a year, or maybe it was $50-$60. really the same thing in a sense, although I used to lease my car at the dealership and had free oil changes, and that was super nice until my car got into a little bit of a wreck with hitting the side, and I ended up just deciding to finance my car, so that kind of changed the contract. And also moving, like an hour or so from my dealership. It's not exactly ideal to drive an hour and have to wait another hour or however long to get an oil change. And my dealership, while they have appointments, they also do just take drive-ins, so sometimes people would just show up and they would service them instead of accounting for my appointment for my oil change. And that happened a couple of times, so yeah, it kind of balances out, honestly. So, and this place is straight by my house, so it's kind of convenient. But yeah, got that done, and a couple of people inside were eating food, so now I'm hungry, so I'm gonna head home and eat, and then probably try and clear up a little bit of code that I've got, or maybe not clean up the code, but just make some notes of some things that I had on my desk, just so I'm kind of in a good spot come Monday. So yeah, that's what I've got going on. And the landscaper's coming sometime tomorrow, so last night I had mowed the lawn in that spot just to make sure that it was kind of ready to go. And tonight I'll be putting out some markers in the ground. So not an actual marker, we've got these like cheap things we got at the dollar store. So hoping to find little flags that you could buy. Knowing that this kept getting pushed back, I probably could have just bought some like lawn flags, but I ended up getting these cheap little plastic windfill pin, I guess they're like a pinwheel type of flower. They're plastic, but you just stick them in the ground. So I got a bunch that are a certain color that'll represent sprinklers that don't need capped, and then the other ones that are a different color are the ones that I don't want capped because I still need them to supply water. So I've got going on. Probably gonna clean the house a little bit, especially if we having the in-laws come down to drop my son off, so can't wait to see him tomorrow. It's been a while, and show him his laptop that I bought him, as well as Minecraft. But yeah, I guess that is gonna do it for this video. So stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you in the next one.